So Star Fox Zero is almost out as of this video's going up, and while the title is certainly looking to be a fun one, it's missing one major feature: options. Now, options are there, but from what I've seen and can tell, the title heavily requires the use of motion controls in regards to its gameplay experience. This has resulted in a prior instance where Nintendo stated that they could be disabled to be retracted, and now it appears that motion controls are in for good, and they can only be altered in how they're implemented, but they still play a role in the game regardless. Needless to say, this shift in controls has resulted in some minor negative reception towards the game, with some simply choosing not to purchase it due to this shift. While motion controls were a major step forward for games a decade ago, it's clear the general public's perception of them has shifted towards a desire to be done with them. Nintendo is often seen as seemingly stuck in the past, but to argue that these controls are no longer viable is kind of invalid. They work wonderfully in games like Twilight Princess HD or the Wind Waker HD. Splatoon offered motion controls in a manner that worked efficiently for the product, but the player was still given the option to disable them, and to compensate for it, the player is able to shift features in the game to invert aiming or increase and decrease the camera speed. The game is able to appeal to more consumers in this manner, and while one option may be heavily preferred by what some deem as the hardcore community, both sides alike can play in their preferred style to help build themselves up on the learning curve. Similar instances for non-motion based games such as Street Fighter occur as well. Players have not only a variety of control options, but they're able to remap the layout of their controller to match a desired result for a specific purpose. So not every controller is guaranteed to have the same layout, but there is a commonly accepted setup for beginners. And those who grew up playing in the arcades, there's a similar option in arcade fight sticks, something that are commonly seen in tournaments. None of these are necessary to get better at the game. Really, it depends on the player and their personal taste, and of course sometimes disabilities may be brought into the mix. One of the best Chun-Li players in Texas within the Street Fighter community is Broly, a disabled player who lacks full control over his hands, but because of his controller of choice and the ability to map out button layouts for his preferred setup, he's able to overcome many of his limitations to provide an optimal experience for the game. Not every game has such robust setups such as button mapping or controller configuration, but the variety of options to match the individual's playstyle certainly goes a long way in ensuring the player has the most enjoyable experience with the game possible, and it makes the player more likely to stick along with the item in question for far longer than they would have otherwise. In fact, one of my favorite reasons for choosing PC titles over console titles are the options that PC delivers in comparison to their dedicated counterparts. Xbox, PlayStation, Wii U, in addition to keyboard and mouse, virtually any device that can be used for a game console can be used for PC in some way. So if you still prefer your DualShock controller from the PS2 era, you can still use it on PC despite the generational gap. The need for controller variety is something Nintendo's Masahiro Sakurai has realized himself, particularly with the Smash games, in which Brawl had 5 different controller setups and Smash for Wii U had 7. The GameCube controller was even so popular that they made an adapter specifically to bring it back so players could still enjoy Smash the way they did in the years of Melee. It was heavily appreciated among the community, and it meant more players could easily have access to more multiplayer options. While it's expected for titles like Star Fox and Zelda to only support one single controller layout, recently that's changed for Zelda via its HD remakes, in which motion controls can be enabled or disabled and both support the gamepad or Pro Controller. The Wii U has quickly changed the way we can play so many of our favorite titles. And while some certainly make more sense than others, instances in which they're forced upon the player in a franchise that generally never required them before, such as now, it can be quite jarring for longtime fans and increase the barrier for entry. Miyamoto may think it's a requirement, but clearly the fans don't. And while it might be the better overall system for the product to work with, that doesn't always mean everyone will be willing to use them or take to them like intended. And in cases like Skyward Sword, it can easily put a damper on the player's experience and the opinion of the title overall. Whether or not future control schemes will be implemented in the future via updates or patches, only time can tell, but until they do, I can guarantee Star Fox Zero will have a lot of disappointed consumers. But while you're here, why not check out some of my other stuff, along with some of Gamnesia stuff too. It really helps us out. If you want to see more of me and want to see my channel grow, go give BriHard a like, share, and hey, maybe tell me what you thought about the video in the comments. It's all very much appreciated, and I couldn't do any of it without you. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.